Hello, this is Philo Shelton, and I wanted to share my Costa Rican experience in regards to sustainable development and adaptive resource management. And we are studying, considering all the forces of social, economic, and environmental systems and working to adapt those systems and reach sustainable development goals. Costa Rica is a small country the size of West Virginia with under 5 million people, but has an abundant amount of natural resources. We got to see at La Paz these waterfalls, and these were somewhat controlled by a hydroelectric plant nearby, and the hydroelectricity supplies 70–80% of the electricity for Costa Rica. We went to La Selva, and this was a old rainforest reserve that was preserved by Leslie Aldridge, and there was a lot of world-class research occurring at this location, where we had university team from Brown measuring chlorophyll in trees and vegetation through this drone. It's in the upper left-hand corner. And while we were at the lodge, we met people from CU doing remote sensing, and the local GIS coordinator, and all the knowledge that's being shared and research at this location. The old growth rainforest has very tall trees with huge bases, and these trees have their own environment. With the upper environment, where frogs and birds congregate, and in the lower environment we saw a lot of leaf-cutting ants and other ground type species that live below the tree. There's a lot of trails that lead you through this forest, and easy to observe all the different types of species that live throughout this rainforest, and help gain an appreciation of the ecosystem there. During our 2-hour walk of the wildlife there, we saw over 30 different animal species, from birds, insects, amphibians, reptiles, and mammals. And the local guides had a great knowledge on where these animals live within the forest canopy, and were quickly able to show us how to find these animals throughout the forest at that location. The next day at La Selva, we went on a rafting trip at a local river and had a tight Class 3 whitewater experience. And during the break, the guides had local fruits that they cut up and shared with us on break, and it was a great way to enjoy and relax during the mid part of the trip. Also, these local guides had a great knowledge of the ecosystem around there, and the Costa Rican government has a law to protect the first 50 meters of the river's edges, and there's also, through the La Selva research area, they're looking to preserve additional 25 meters to have a total of 75 on both sides. The upper left-hand corner shows where they have cattle grazing, and ramps that lead down to the river for the cattle to get water. However, you don't see any animals, and it reduces all the biodiversity there. If you look at the upper right-hand corner, a more natural setting is having the trees overhang the river, keep the water cool, preserve these stream banks, as well as allows birds and animals to have habitat to forage for food in, such as the lower right-hand corner. We did a lot of field learning type classes with our fellow students. We had various lessons based on topics of interest that we had, from water, agriculture, local laws, landscaping, waste and recycling topics. And my topic was on ecotourism. And so the upper left corner is our class field session, and the right-hand side we had actually hands-on learning at the Don Juan farm, and developed sugarcane juice that we got to try, and then that is dried to make brown sugar at this organic farm. We also at this farm had a demonstration about methane production and how you can use farm manures, gather that, and then in the center the gas is collected and then distributed through the farm and used for cooking. And our actual meal after our tour was prepared using the gas from this methane production. So it's definitely showing us easy and sustainable practice that's simple to be used in the kitchen, from farm to kitchen. Other things that were demonstrated were use of local materials for constructing structures and homes. The right-hand side of the picture shows a rock basket home that's earthquake resistant, and that's very important given the Costa Rican environment near a volcano. A good part of ecotourism and sustainable development is, as visitors come through along the road, to stop by and purchase local products and experience local foods and vegetables that you would not be able to experience in the United States or elsewhere. Even just the bananas alone are different shapes and sizes and have different tastes that are great to enjoy. We also got to experience zip lining through the top of the rainforest, and it was an exhilarating experience to zip a half-mile across the forest canopy. And earlier that day, we got to hike through the forest at this location, which is more of a cloud forest, a higher elevation, and saw vipers and various birds. Walked over large suspension bridges and got to be on top of the forest canopy and look closely and firsthand at an owl's nest and saw some juvenile owls roosting in the tree. Costa Rica Universities has tourism as a major trade that's offered in the university, and there's a lot of things they teach there, just simple things to add to your experience as a tourist in Costa Rica. Just having decals on the bus that cheer up the appearance of the bus makes it fun to know that's my bus and I can board there. And when you go into the hotel, there's a lot of animals that are folded up with towels, and makes it fun when you open the door and not sure what animal will be there next to enjoy as you go to rest. Other things with ecotourism is hiring local guides, and that's important because there's a couple of things. They understand all the local vegetation, how it can be used for food and medicine, and the biology and ecology of the area. They also are able to share their knowledge with their local people. It helps employ them and sustain the forest and ecosystem that they're able to interpret and for us to enjoy. We went caving and had a local guide here where she explained about the various cave formations, and we trusted our lives with our local guides, with being on belay with a rope to go up and down the 17-meter ladder into the cave and out of the cave. We stayed at rustic accommodations, and I say rustic because these are not by American standards. We had bug nets over to keep bugs out from us, and then also there's bugs on the floor. And I would say from an adaptability that we as tourists needed to adapt to our environment, because these bugs were not going to get out of our way. We had a large hatch of a termite nest that infested us that evening, and so it definitely was adaptive for us as a guest in this Another part of sustainable tourism and also development is hiring local people to prepare foods. And this is one aspect I really enjoyed throughout the trip, was having local foods prepared. There's nothing processed by local people, and just the taste, the spices, and how they put together the meals made the experience wonderful. When we went to the west coast of Costa Rica, it's much drier there and arid. We stayed at a fishing village called Brazalito, and this area here was left over where it's been developed on both sides of the community with high-end resorts. The picture on the right is a Westin Playa Conchal, and this resort's an all-inclusive resort that comprises of 2,400 acres of land, 18-hole golf course, 400 hotel rooms. But given the arid environment, it was not a good sustainable development in that. It used a lot of water. It did not employ local people. There was lodging for employees to support basically an American-style resort in Costa Rica. Other things we saw was cattle production, how destructive that is to the land. They're removing forests to put grass down, and this causes a lot of erosion as those forests are removed and established to pasture land. We saw other agricultural practices such as pineapple production that would take land and use it for 3 to 5 years, and then after that the land's no longer fertile to produce pineapple, and so then it's left fallow and not usable land any longer. Other things that we saw in forestry was teak forest with monoculture of teak trees and the production of teak. Lower right corner shows in the middle a teak forest in that area. Now on the bright side, in Monte Alto, this was a coffee plantation that was being brought back to of rainforest restoration, and it had a couple purposes of also not only preserving rainforest habitat and howler monkeys that live there, but it also helped to remove non-native species such as bamboo, use them as bridge structures, and have a watershed for the town below. And in this preserve, local people donated land and paid money to purchase land to create a rainforest watershed, and this watershed is now maintaining the town year-round, where before with open land water would run off quickly and couldn't be stored through the forest, and not water hence not available for the town below. Another thing with Costa Rica was there's lots of recycling areas with signage and reasons of why it's important to recycle. So you had the continuous message that recycling is important throughout the country. When we got to San Jose, an important part of the cities there is to protect their heritage, and they had several museums, the National Museum that had pre-Columbian artifacts, and Jade Museum and Gold Museum. And that's what the role of these cities are, is to embrace their heritage and show that. The other part is the restaurants there. They embrace their local products. Coffee is a main staple of Costa Rica, and they celebrate their products. And I frankly enjoyed drinking the coffee there in Costa Rica, and as this poster board said, life is too short for bad coffee, with a smile below. That's the cup I got. So in closing, Pura Vida means pure life, and this was the tagline for Costa Rica. Everyone knew it throughout the